At the Senior Bowl, catching up with NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. And Tom, Zach Taylor wrapped up his first season as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. How would you assess where he has the team and the position that they're in to improve in 2020?
Well, they certainly had their fair share of challenges last season, from losing two of your starting offensive linemen, your first-round draft pick, to not having A.J. Green, to all the challenges they had on the defensive side of the ball as they continued to try to get some of the personnel in place. Having said that, you would have liked to win more games. There's no question about it, but you saw progress down the stretch last season with Joe Mixon running the ball really well at the end. Obviously, when Andy Dalton got back in, they were able to function at a higher level offensively. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're going to be looking at, starting with the quarterback position in this offseason, but you saw those incremental steps early on or late in the season that make you believe that there's a possibility they're going to make a big improvement in 2020.
You mentioned the quarterback position. What areas of need would you say that this team should address, whether it's free agency or via the draft?
Well, quarterback would be number one, and I think there's no question. I don't think they shy away from the fact they're going to be evaluating the quarterbacks. They got a really good one out here, Justin Herbert, who had a good first day at the Senior Bowl. Joe Burrow's name is going to come up constantly for the next several months. But I think you're looking beyond that. You have to figure out what's going to happen with A.J. You're going to have to figure out what's going to happen at wide receiver. You got a good one in Tyler Boyd, but you're going to need other weapons, whether that's A.J. or somebody else that you're bringing in. In terms of the offensive line, they have invested resources in it. Everybody can use more offensive linemen. Defensively, though, is really where it seems like they need to continue to upgrade. The linebackers last year were not good enough. You need to upgrade at that position. The defensive line, you have some older pieces. I mean, Carlos Dunlap still plays really hard. Obviously, Geno Atkins still plays really hard, but continue to address there. And then on the back end, I mean, how many injuries did they have in the secondary? I mean, when you lose Drake Kirkpatrick for most of the season, when you're losing some of your most talented guys, really up and down that defense, but particularly in the front seven, I think you have to expect that there's going to be some investment in draft picks, and maybe there's a possibility with some of the trade pieces that could be on the move in this offseason, you can increase the capital before April.
So much is talked about the Bengals having that number one overall pick, but pick number 33 will be there right in the first one in the second round. Who are some names or maybe even position groups that could possibly be around and possibly be this team's targets?
Well, if it's quarterback at number one, then you would certainly look at the defensive line, which is a good group. Wide receiver, too. This is, when you talk to scouts, this is one of the best receiver drafts that we've seen. There's going to be a whole bunch of guys in those top 50 picks. 33 is always an interesting position because you're talking about the second day of the draft. So when the draft ends on Thursday night at midnight Eastern or whatever it is, you then have a lot of phone calls that are going to be coming in for number 33. Now, in recent years, we've seen some teams decide to stand pat, take the best available player who's still there, but there's always trade opportunities there too. So it'll be interesting, again, because I don't think it's, this is not a team that's a player or two away from winning the Super Bowl. They know that they've got to rebuild things, particularly on the defensive side, and then obviously at quarterback. So maximizing the resources that you have in place through trades or otherwise is all part of what Duke Tobin and Mike Brown, Paul Brown, and all those guys are going to be doing.
So, Tom, I'm going to put you on the clock. If you were the one making that number one overall pick for the Bengals, who are you taking and why would he be the right fit for this team?
I mean, everybody says Joe Burrow, but we've seen in the past that, things can change. I don't know how much Joe Burrow's going to do in terms of throwing the ball, if at all, through the combine, through pro day, anything else. He's certainly going to take a ton of visits. You got some other quarterbacks, though, that could rise, guys like Justin Herbert. Also, I mean, you're going to get calls. You know that. There's going to be, a lot of calls in terms of moving up to the number one selection. You would not be doing your job if you don't answer the phone, and here's some of those. We've seen some massive trade packages in past years, and again, if you're looking at this through the prism of you need a bunch of different pieces to improve this roster, you at least have to consider it. So all of which is saying I'm not going to give you a real answer right now. Joe Burrow would be the prohibitive favorite. We'll talk a ton about him, but there's always different things that can happen, and you never want to be drafting number one, but when you are, you have to take all the possibilities into account because you don't want to be in this position again.
Absolutely. A lot could happen between now and when that first round rolls around at late April. Tom, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely. You got it.